Hello, everyone. This is Omar from the third rail. Yes, a different time today. I decided to do it at 6 o'clock because at 8 o'clock, we got the NBA playoff, man. I've been missing those playoffs. Next two nights game. I missed my Knicks last night. Anyway, before we start, let's get to it. Let me make sure I'm on all the platforms. I'm trying to find fans. Trying to love you, baby, forever. All right, here, I got the song ready because I don't have an intro, so I'm going to sing this song. How can I just let you walk away? Just let you leave without a trace. When I stand here taking every breath with you. Ooh, you're the only one who really knew me at all. How can you just walk away from me when all I can do is watch you leave? 'Cause we share the laughter and the pain and even share the tears. You're the only one who really knew me at all. Boom, ba-dum, boom, boom, ba-dum, boom, boom. Yeah, you could tell I'm a fucking idiot. I can't sing, got no rhythm. My music teacher told me a long time ago, Omar, you have, what do you call it? No, I don't know. You're deaf tone. Is that me? Deaf tone? Is that it? That's what it's called. Okay, so everything is good. We're live all over the place. Everybody finally figured out how to go live on Rockfin, how to go on Rumble, because, maybe in the future I'm going to end up at Rumble or Kick, because I want to talk more stuff that I can't talk on YouTube, especially concerning the Gaza and Israel's mass murders, because you can't talk about it on YouTube. Like today's, if you put a headline with the word Gaza or genocide or Zionist, that's it. You get ad suitability, when they limited ads. And anyway, I don't make no money anyway, so we good. You know what I'm saying? We good, all right? All right. Let's start with the news. Let's start with the headlines. You ready? Get ready. First of all, today's stream is about the bias of the media. I spoke about it yesterday, but it is getting ridiculous. They're trying to create something that is not there, and they succeeding. They have created the narrative. Remember when they started about 2 months ago? Oh, those Palestinians, when they went on 10/7, they raped like 1,200 women or 500 women. Jake Tapper, the Zionist garbage on CNN, and Dana Dash, whose fucking face is bigger than a pencil eraser. They Zionists. They're like, oh, why are we quiet on Israeli women? Oh, are they not equal? Because there was no rape. So that failed to stick. You understand what the media does? The media throws a lot of shit at the wall, like spaghetti at the wall, and they go at it like full throttle. Then if it doesn't stick, then they move on. So they found something. Jews are not safe in college campuses, really. Why all of a sudden they're not safe? Because people are protesting against the genocide in Palestine? Is that it? Do you want to distract from the real issue that every day they found the 300 mass graves that the Israeli killed? Some of the bodies are still tied to their back and legs. Unbelievable. What's going on in Palestine is fucking evil, man. What's going on is evil, man. Anyway, I can't see. I haven't figured out how to see the what do you call it? The How to see the comments. Yeah, that's what I said. Anyway, let's go to the headlines first before we start our show. You ready? Let's get ready to go. I give you advice. If you want to get real news, unbiased, go to this website. This website is about 40 years old, more than 30 years old. I used to read it in the 2000s when I was still a student, in the 1999s when they used to be against the war in Iraq and all these wars that were happening. So these are the headlines. Let's go through the headlines and we go to our show. U.S. planning major weapon package for Ukraine. It's not going to help them. They're going to lose the war anyway. U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria come under fire, under attack. Well, we've got to leave. What the fuck are we doing over there? Biden pro-Palestinian protests are anti-Semitic. So let's read that. Let's read that. We gotta read this. All right, ready? Dun, 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 dun. Some members of Congress are calling the National Guard to be sent in to break protest Columbia University protests. On Monday, President Biden said, on Monday, excuse me, on Monday, all right, hold on. I don't like something. You know, I did it today. I don't know how to adjust the lightning. Now, I don't want to look ugly. I want to look prettier than Wick. You know, the guy on Wick TV. That's it. I'm just doing it. You ready? Okay, let's continue. Okay? What the hell am I doing? Give me a second, guys. Am I still here? Yeah, I'm still here. All right, did I jump into something? No, we're going back. We're going back. Okay. The country opposed to the Israeli slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza as anti-Semitic. I condemn the anti-Semitic protest. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. Biden told reporters, also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. What the fuck? We don't understand 35,000 dead, you fucking idiot, and we don't understand. And we're the ones we don't understand. Look at that. He's sleepwalking through it, man. He's not even winging it. He's sleepwalking through it. This is the problem with a second term for President Biden. He's not going to be the president. It's going to be a village presidency. Everybody is going to vie for power. The vice president is going to fight for some power. The Secretary of State, everybody's going to vie to have their say, because the president would be always either sleeping or doesn't know what the fuck he's at. Biden commented came at the media is focused on Columbia University in New York City, where students have set up a camp named the Gaza Solitary Encampment. Some of the students involved in the protest were arrested last week and suspended by university, prompting a walkout by faculty members. Okay, there's a problem. They're not telling you the truth, okay? Most of the protesters are Jewish. The faculty professors, they came out in support of the student. The students are not anti-Semitic. They're not bothering the Jews. It's just there is a plan here. There's a narrative to get some guys or some people, like the show I showed you yesterday, to get in the face of the protesters or to agitate them. Is that the word? Agitate them and get involved, and they get them on an iPhone. They put in the news and they run with it. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. Can you tell us what student has been beat up? What student has been assaulted? Can we see some police reports? Can we see some reports of the anti-Semitism up is at 900%? Where and how and what is the definition of anti-Semitism? What's the definition? If I say that Israel is a criminal state, am I anti-Semite then? If that is, then I am. Israel is a Nazi state. It's a murderous regime. It's a new colonial power. It is the extension of Western colonial project in the Middle East. Didn't you notice on 10/7, all the Western leaders went right to there. Get you. We can't lose this project. Anyway, let's go on. Israel military intelligence chief resigns over October 7. Netanyahu resists U.S. plan to cut off aid to Israel military unit. This is the unit that was raping and killing and murdering and executing Palestinians and raping women in Gaza. Israel army is building outposts in the heart of Gaza. This outpost has been the criteria for Israel to take Palestinian land. They did that in the West Bank. They find a big land someplace in West Bank. Oh, we need a military. Then they'll take it under the rules of a military outpost. Then they do 2 years. Then they'll hand it to the settlers. They've been doing this for the last 30 years. Same game. The Army condemns it, or eminent domain. That's what we call it here in the United States. We call it eminent domain. And what they do is, the Israeli Army will do is they'll take that area for the purpose of stealing it. They'll do 2 years of a small fake base. They probably have nothing, just a couple of sand bags on there. And then after that, they say, well, we don't need it no more. What are we going to do with it since it's legally ours? Then they hand it to a new settlement. That's what they've been doing in the West Bank. The whole project in Israel is to steal feet by feet, house by house, window by window. They are there. The whole purpose is to steal land and try to get rid of the native population. If you want to see something really sad, look at Hebron. Hebron, just go on YouTube. I want the American people to educate themselves. All you have to do is just get on, what do you call it? Hold on. Hebron, okay. I have to see if I am on Rumble, right? Let me do this here so you don't have to see everything there. I want you to see my secrets, because this fucking YouTube is full of shit like it is, Okay, live, going live also. Live, is it? It's not live. What happened? Wait. Huh?
Why is this new invention shaking up the billion-dollar video surveillance industry? This brand new light bulb security camera provides
how to eliminate all mosquitoes
on Rumble.
in a 400
You gotta make sure I'm on Rumble,
radius.
man.
This brilliant invention keeps you completely mosquito-free.
All right, I am on Rumble. Great. Okay, let's go back to our news. Anyway, you get the gist of it. There's a big situation going on here with what do you call it, with Rockfin. I messed it up, didn't I? All right. So remember when I told you that the media is biased? I do have a purpose for it. Here's from Breaking Point. What happened? From Breaking Point, when the Morning Joe on MSNBC, how they always have this crazy shit. We're scared of the ADL.
As a media piece.
Hold on. Okay. This is Breaking Point. They did shows you how the media is biased and how they seeing things differently. The media doesn't represent you. The media represents corporate America, the pharmaceutical industry, politicians, political parties. Like Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough, he's a grifter. He's not a fucking liberal or Democrat. He never was. He was part of the New Ginger's 1996 Republican Revolution and the contract with America. They're the one who fucked up all the politics in Washington when they came to power for the first time, I think in 1996. They were out of power for 60 years, and they did the scorched earth policy. Let's just watch this, okay? Oh! Go.
We've got a little compilation for you of the way the media has bought into this. The protests are anti-Semitic.
Holy cow.
Hook, line, and sinker. Let's take a look.
You got to fix the sound. Nobody, when you're an idiot, you got to fix the sound here, buddy. Buddy, old pals. I'm like, why is it so loud? Samsung. Speaker. All right, here you go. Go.
Listen to a little bit of that.
By the way, there are both professors and students within the university who say things that I think cross the line.
What did they say? This is the guy Kraft. I don't know his name is. What's his name? Robert Kraft, who owns the New England Patriots, the football team. So the whole idea is he donates to Columbia University. If I don't agree with what they're saying, if they're saying that if the students are protesting a genocide in Palestine, that's not the right message we want out there. They should be on the side of the genocider. You understand? If not, I'm going to cut off all the money. This is the pervert who took a special flight to Florida to get a massage by a certain individual so he'd get a happy ending. He could have got that shit in Boston, not lose $100,000 on airplane fuel. This guy's an idiot.
Accountability. I believe in free speech. Say whatever you want, but pay the consequences and don't have your face covered. Okay. I don't think that should be allowed.
So the face covered is no good.
Protesters. These are violent hate mongers. The things
that come out Donnie douchebag.
Burn down Tel Aviv genocide. October 7th, we did it once. We'll do it 10 times. We'll do it 100 times. We'll do it 1,000 times. We'll do it 10,000 times.
Nobody said that.
This is an atrocity. And I'm going to say the quadruped out loud. If there was any group.
He's saying that these demonstrations are atrocities. Don't you notice they never mention what's going on in Gaza? These fucking assholes who got up every morning Joe and just suck Joe Biden's dick because they know he's listening. This is Donnie douchebag, douche. His name is Dutch, whatever the fuck his name is. He said it's an atrocity for people to demonstrate in the United States. Our First Amendment right is an atrocity when it comes to protesting anti-Zionist behavior in the Middle East.
Spewing hate and violence against any other group, Asians, blacks, Hispanics, gays, it would be shut down. And this needs to be shut down immediately because, and once again, those groups are back. Those tents are back up.
Hold on.
And this cannot go unanswered. It's very simple. And, you know,
so, let me just do something here. Forgive me. I'm going to rewind it because I want you to hear it from the beginning here. But the whole idea is that they are so scared of, I'm going to bring you this Wonder Boy later on. They are so scared of, okay, let me rewind it. Let me do it all over again. I want you to listen carefully. Let's start it all over again. This is an atrocity to them. Go ahead.
Speaking of the media piece, we've got a little compilation for you of the way the media has bought into this. The protests are anti-Semitic line, hook, line, and sinker. Let's take a listen to a little bit of that.
By the way, there are both professors and students within the university who say things that I think cross the line, and there should be accountability. I believe in free speech. Say whatever you want, but pay the consequences and don't have your face covered. I don't think that should be allowed.
These are not protesters. These are violent hate mongers. The things that are coming out of their mouth, burn down Tel Aviv genocide. October 7th, we did it once. We'll do it 10 times. We'll do it 100 times. We'll do it 1,000 times. We'll do it 10,000 times. This is an atrocity. And I'm going to say the quadruped out loud. If there was any group spewing hate and violence against any other group, Asians, blacks, Hispanics, gays, it would be shut down. And this needs to be shut down immediately because, and once again, those groups are back. Those tents are back up. And this cannot go unanswered. It's very simple. And, you know, there's a continuum of protesters. There's a heinous anti-violent ones that spewing hatred, spewing death, if you will. And then there's the less malignant that say ceasefire. But even ceasefire doesn't have the word peace in it. Never do you hear the word peace because this side doesn't.
Says the word ceasefire doesn't have peace in it.
Want peace. It wants a jihad. And this is not pro-Palestinian.
Ooh, that's such a hard word.
And anti-Israel is a misnomer because it's really anti-Jew.
And I'll even go further. It's not almost anti-Semitism. It is anti-Semitism.
And a dash.
And this is something that is on display right now. But the sort of roots of this kind of devolving from A to B go back millennia. And this is something, the roots of anti-Semitism that pop up in societies that frankly tend to be a canary in the coal mine for a society and democracy in this case that is in a lot of trouble. It is, I like to look at this and replace Jews with any other minority group here. And what would the entire country be doing? They would be outraged right.
See, the problem is they're conflicting the thing. Nobody's talking about Jews. They're just sticking this fucking word in the mind instead of people. They are running cover. They are running a distraction for the Israeli state. Honestly, that's the only thing they're doing right now. This is what they do. This is what they do. It has not. I don't know how the word Jewish got in there. They are Jewish demonstrators. One of the student organization that was banned or suspended is called Jewish Voice for Peace. It is a Jewish student organization that strive for peace in the Middle East, and they were banned and suspended for 6 months. So I don't know how this goes. Are Jews hating themselves? They are a third of the protesters are all Jews. The faculty came out. The professor came out in support of the students. And they're all Jews. Nobody hates Jews. American Jews are American Jews. Well, the issue we have is with the Israelis, unless you guys are in the same caboose.
So obviously, as you note, protest is an important part of
Jake
being
Tabor,
an American.
fucking douchebag.
Free speech is an important part of being an American. Where is the line? For example, I've seen video of somebody at the Gaza encampment at Columbia standing up and talking about how great October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel
Nobody
was,
said that. Give
and
me the
calling
proof.
the Hamas terrorists, calling them freedom fighters.
They are.
Is that hate speech or is that protected free speech? Where do you come down on that?
That's how smart he is.
And that is, believe it or not, as vile as it could be, because Hamas should be destroyed from the actions they did on October 7th and other actions. But that does not fall into a crime. If someone makes a comment that they want to join a terrorist organization, that's going to come under investigation. But the commissioner of legal matters at the New York City Police Department is going to really break this down for New Yorkers.
Oh my God.
Whew, there's a lot going on there, isn't there?
At least Eric Adams had to inform Jake Tapper, like, yeah, that's actually not illegal.
Well, what did he say?
He said, like,
you may not believe him.
You may not believe it, but actually people can say things even that are offensive. Like,
Yeah.
you're a journalist, Jake Tapper. You don't know the basics of the freaking First Amendment? Listen, even if you say something incredibly offensive, incredibly racist, like, horrific, I know the clip he's talking about too, which he mischaracterizes, but anyway, put that aside, even if it's as represented, it's not even a borderline case. It's not close. I just, listen, Donnie Deutsch in there, his was probably the worst. It's an atrocity, a rally chant that you don't like, calling for ceasefire. It's an atrocity, he says, because it doesn't have the word peace in it. Are you, and the erasure of all of the Jewish students who are involved here just makes me insane, because they keep conflating. They accuse these protesters of doing it, but they're the ones doing it. Conflating all Jewish people with the state of Israel and the government of Israel and their actions. That is actually anti-Semitic, okay? Especially when you have many, especially young Jewish Americans who are appalled by the actions of this government. And you want to associate them with a government that, again, is plausibly committing a genocide in Gaza Strip? And what impact do you think that's going to have if you force every Jewish person to be conflated with the state of Israel? That is not condoning, but predictably going to lead to a rise in anti-Semitism. It's just...
This is exactly what they want. They want to create this scenario that, this anti-Jewish scenario in the United States, which there isn't any. Nobody hates anybody. The only issue is that Americans have awakened to the idea that the Israelis have been lying for 75 years. They've been playing the victim. You have to understand the Jew is the ultimate victim. They're always the victim, no matter what. Israel is the only state that is victimizing a whole set of people and destroying them and still come out as the victim. They've been doing it for 75 years. Taking land, killing them, drilling them, and every time they come on TV, we are surrounded by all these sharks around us, these Arab countries that hate us. After they made peace with all these Arab countries, they can't tell a lie no more. So after we see their cruelty in Gaza, it's cruel what they're doing, man. It's evil. The American psyche has awakened. The American people have awakened. The only dumb idiots are the evangelist Christian. They say, well, we gotta make Israel whole so the rapture will come. Yeah, give me your money, you fucking idiots. But the whole idea, all revolutions, all ideas starts in campuses, in schools. Remember 1968, the anti-Vietnam, remember when they killed those, I think it was Ohio State University, I think, they killed the National Guard. The ADL is calling for the National Guard to disrupt and break the peaceful protest by students, by American students. The whole idea that our First Amendment is only good for certain things, but when it comes to Israel, it's a bad idea. And we have to get the National Guard involved. You understand? You guys, everybody should stand against that. Anybody, right-wingers, alt-right, everybody, because tomorrow they're going to come after you. And the ADL is nothing but a fucking economic terrorist organization that terrorizes American opinion makers. They take away their PayPal account. They take away their platforms. They do everything evil, man. They, you know, it's all about money when it comes to the ADL. Now they call them for the National Guard. It's fucking nuts, man.
Makes me so insane. And then Robert Kraft there at the beginning, you mentioned him before. That's probably the most consequential comments that we played. Here's a billionaire donor, very influential in Republican political circles in particular, but political circles in general. Very influential at Columbia University because he's given oodles of money, I don't know how much, to the school, saying he's pulling his donations, and he believes in free speech, but not when he disagrees with it. Then he doesn't believe in
part of what
I love Krista. Krista, I love you. If you wasn't married to my brother,
I mean, look, maybe it's controversial, but
I would marry
even
you.
if white supremacists were on campus, as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Krista, if you wasn't married to my brother Kyle, I will ask for your hand. In Islam, you could have more than one wife, by the way.
It is free speech.
Listen, I support it.
I do too. That's what I want to
Unite
talk
the
that
Right
way.
thing being, you know, permit being issued. It was very controversial. ACLU was sort of like tore each other apart. But that is the foundations. Even things that are blatantly wrong, racist, anti-Semitic, like even if they were, and that's a mischaracterization of what's going on here. That's when the First Amendment actually becomes important. When it's things that people agree with and are comfortable with, then you don't need it.
They're like, well, if they were saying the same thing about Jews or about Asians or blacks, I'm like, well, you know, like I'm South Asian, right? Or Indian, I guess. South Asian is a controversial term. Here's a good example. If there's like Sikh separatists who are really big in America, and this drives Indian people absolutely crazy, right? Especially the Indian government. And if there was a Sikh protest whenever I was going to college, you know what I would do? I would walk past and I would go to the library and live my life, because I'd be like, first of all, I'm born here, I'm not from India. Second of all, I don't give a shit about Sikh separatists. But that's, you know, I guess more personal to me. Let's turn it up even more. Let's say that there is a there's a whole thing going on right now with a Title 9 or whatever, with women's sports and trans and all that. And there's even college athletes that have been speaking out against that. If there was a pro keep women in women's sports rally on campus, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. You have to support it. And I have no doubt also that all of these other people would certainly also, they would call for a crackdown there, and they would think that that is correct. So that's another thing where we have to not buy Dana Bash and a lot of the media framing here, which is they're like, imagine if, and RFK Jr. said this too whenever he was here. We were talking about the university presidents. And he's like, imagine if they said that about blacks. I'd be like, well, okay. I mean, it's a free country. You know, don't necessarily agree with it, but hey, like, you got to be allowed to be able to say whatever you want.
Let's not pretend like there aren't actual neo-Nazi protests that happen. They're like sort of pathetic. You know, there were some that happened like in Florida. They're pathetic and people find them disgusting. But the White House isn't putting out a statement on them. So I actually think it's
I don't think they should either.
I think it's the polar opposite, actually. I think there's been much more of a reaction to people, you know, calling for divestment and rally chants. Listen, again, if you don't like the rally chants, that's fine. You can be offended by the rally chants, but it's not violence. It doesn't deserve the National Guard coming in and a crack. It's not an atrocity. You want to see an atrocity? Look at anything coming out of the Gaza Strip every single day if you want to know what an actual atrocity is. So since we aren't at Columbia, and neither are any of those idiots that we just showed you opining on what's happening there, thought we would bring you a thread of someone who actually was on the Columbia campus talking about what they witnessed, so we can sort a little bit of fact from fiction here on what's actually going on. Let's put this up on the screen. So this is Alejandra Ramos. She actually worked for the Today Show. She says, listen, my usual TV need is food, but I'm also a current Columbia student, and I'm so sad and so frustrated with the way student protests on our campus are being reported. This will be imperfect, but I can't watch things that are so contrary to what I've actually seen and stay silent. Go ahead to the next one. I'm concerned by the reports broadcasting from outside our campus gates with footage shot almost entirely off campus. Look closely at the videos. If there are stores, subway stops, closed gates in the background, etc., this is not an on-campus protest. This context matters. Continue to the next one. Campus access is limited to those of us with Columbia IDs. The protesters on sidewalks, peaceful or otherwise, are mostly those who are not allowed to enter. Vile agitators screaming at students from outside campus are not Columbia students, and this must be made clear in reports. Continue on. Reports that only show Zoom interviews with students sharing one perspective feel irresponsible.
This is an eyewitness, and she's also a reporter. Reports that only show Zoom interviews with students sharing one perspective feel irresponsible to me. How can you report on protesters without interviewing a single protester? Why are their voices being excluded when there are so many of them willing to speak? In other words, ladies, it's all about a fucking distraction.
It's me. How can you report on protests without interviewing a single protester?
I'm going to tell you why the distraction is. You want to know what it is?
Excluded when there are so...
This is what the distraction is all about. Hold on. Forget about this happy boy. This is what the distraction is all about, ladies and gentlemen. This is what they found yesterday in Gaza. I wish I could leave here.
Health workers exhume body after body buried in the courtyard of the Nasser hospital in Han Yunis. Hamas says dozens of corpses were discovered in a mass grave here, this just weeks after Israeli forces poured out of the southern city. As emergency teams work, families wait and see if their loved ones are among the dead.
It's a difficult scene, beyond what you can imagine. It's a difficult scene for someone to bring back the body of a dear human being.
Israel's military says it's checking the reports of the mass graves. Its forces retreated from the southern city after conducting what it called a precise and limited operation at the Nasser hospital. Israel alleges Hamas is orchestrating its attacks on facilities like this one and holding hostages there too, claims the militants deny. The army is eyeing up the southern city of Rafah as its next target, believing it could find abductees there. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says attacks against Hamas are...
All that noise that's going on in college campuses, all that newspaper, all these fake CNN and MSNBC, they don't tell you that. This is a foreign channel. A matter of fact, Israel will not let any media inside Gaza. Why? Why did the media go to Vietnam, to North Korea, to Korea, to World War II? They went in every war except the one that's being perpetrated against the Palestinian civilian population, because they don't want the people to see what they're doing. You saw the pictures. We used to go to TikTok. You saw those Israeli soldiers playing with women underwears and women lingerie and women's breasts. These are fucking evil motherfuckers, man. They're evil. Wallah, they're evil.
Set to intensify.
We will deliver additional and painful blows on Hamas.
Oh, painful.
And it will happen soon. In the coming days, we will increase the...
Notice he got skinny. I think he's taking that diabetic pill shot. He didn't look like that. It's only his head. Look how big his fucking head is.
Military and political pressure on Hamas, because this is the only way to free our hostages and achieve victory.
Yeah, right.
Netanyahu is pressing ahead with an invasion in Rafah despite growing calls for Israel to abandon the plans. Many fear that the potential bloodshed from an invasion there, where most of Gaza's 2.4 million people have sought shelter, would be immense. Even as Washington, Israel's closest ally, has made clear its concern, over the weekend US lawmakers approved $13 billion in new military aid for the Jewish state.
All right, there you have it. There are more.
He died at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis 3 months ago. He should have been buried immediately. But only now that the Israel Defense Force has withdrawn can Samaya al-Shorbaji give her husband Osama a proper burial.
We found Osama's body, but we couldn't find the body.
I'm going to tell you what's going on in Palestine should never have happened, man. Not because I'm an Arab American or I feel for the Palestinian people. I just hate it when you go on Twitter, like some people like Brianna Wu and these fucking leftists, or these, they refuse to acknowledge the pain and suffering of the. I have a neighbor who has a motorcycle, by the way. I hope you crash. Go away. There's a lot of people who refuse to acknowledge the Palestinian pain, like the mass media, like MSNBC. How many Palestinians have they had to talk about their plight? Nobody. They always bring in this is Boy Wonder here. They always bring in somebody, on TV who is the former prime minister of Israel, or who is the public coordinator, or somebody. And what's so good about it, what's so sweet of what's going on is the Israelis are the fucking dumbest liars in the world. They can't lie no more because God doesn't want it to succeed anymore. Every time they lie, boom, they get busted the next day. Every time they lie, because the problem is they lie so big that it's unbelievable. In their mind, we're gonna shock the American public, but you cannot shock them. We don't watch your MSNBCs and your CNNs and we watch social media. We watch independent media. Everybody watches their own independent media. They get their own news. I get my news from X and TikTok most of the time, and I have a subscription to the Wall Street Journal, to the New York. I don't even read the New York Times, but I'm not gonna renew the subscription. It's gonna expire. Now I want you to see this. This is a public service to the Israeli let's say to the who were saying there's a lot of anti-Semitism. So they bring this good-looking. Let's listen to it.
Set now by another student from Columbia University, Xavier Westergaard. You're a Jewish student.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
just heard what he had to say. You're not one of the students he represents in this lawsuit, but I just want to get your experience. He has clients.
Listen to what he's saying. Listen, okay? Listen to the lie. You always could tell of a lie when you listen to the conversation and the words that are being said, because it's hard to lie and make shit up, man. Okay. Look what he says. It's so fucking unbelievable.
We're terrified, and they're students like yourself at this same school. How do you feel on campus?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'll answer your question with a story. I walked onto campus 3 days ago in the evening to go to my lab. I was walking by. I was identifiably Jewish because I was wearing my yarmulke. In fact, it was Shabbat. And what happened was that I heard someone yell my name. And then
Somebody yelled his name. So he must know him. He knows him. Watch how the bigger the lie, the worse it is.
I heard them yell out my student ID number.
Let's say it's 900. That's 9 numbers. Hey, Javier, 96789543321. Does that make sense to you, ladies and gentlemen, man? These are all lies. This is a distraction. And listen what's going to give it away. There's a word that they use, and I want you to listen to it all the time, okay?
Student ID number. And it was coming from this lawn area where there's this encampment. And they said, we know who you are. We know that you're a biology PhD student. And
they called out his name. They called out his student ID number. It's probably like 15 numbers. And they know his major. These are your friends. Your friends will play a trick on you. They'll joking with you. You probably didn't even know. Guys, call him and tell him if you're watching this podcast.
And you're not welcome on this campus.
They told you that. They said you're not welcome on this campus.
Yes, ma'am, unprompted. I was not there to counter-protest. I was not there to cause any sort of issue. I was just walking across campus.
Is this the first time this has happened?
This is the first time it's happened, but this was the first time I'd been on campus since all of this started.
And do you know other Jewish students who are experiencing similar sorts of attacks like this?
Yes, I know students that have experienced much worse. One of my friends had his personal property removed from him and lit on fire. I've heard on...
Could we get a police report on that? Okay, Javier.
Campus, in videos, but also I've seen it firsthand myself. People yell, Jews, Jews, go back to Poland. I've heard explicatives that I do not want to say on this
I
program.
want to use the hard word. They told him to say it. Yeah.
I've heard gas the Jews, and then I've seen these same.
Gas the Jews. I don't know why Jews always tend to use a lot of ingredients. And you know what they remind me of? Remember Juliet Smollett when he lied about being attacked by mega people in Chicago at 2 o'clock in the morning? But he overdid it. They were mega. They were wearing mega hats. They had a rope and they had Clorox and they had all this shit. It's just too much. So he's hidden all that. We go to Portland. He should be guys. They had his name. They had his ID. And they also knew what major he was, as if these people had these spies after him. You know, out of 40,000 students.
Things that you've seen, that we should be the next targets of Hamas.
Listen.
And their.
Okay, here you go. Here's the word, okay? You could tell people are Zionists. This is the word that American people who speak fluent English should not be using. Because when you say Hamas, you use the H, right? Hamas. Everybody uses that. But when you have like the Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro and this asshole over here, they always say Hamas. When you hear the word these are stupid Zionists who want to belong. They think if they say it that way, they are part of the Israeli population. So that's what gave him away, that he's a fucking plant. He has nothing to do. He's a plant. You see what gave him away? What gave him away is the word Hamas. Let's see if he says it again.
Of Hamas and their terrorist brigades.
How long has this been going on?
There have been protests on campus for the last 6 months since October 7th, the day that I will remember for the rest of my life.
Only people actually getting assaulted are the people who are against war. You see? This is what's going on in America right now, ladies and gentlemen, because this fucking douchebag here is lying. I'm Jewish and they hate me and they had my, they said my name and they called out my school ID and my major and they said, go back to Poland, Jews should be gassed and Hamas. Get the fuck out of here.
The rhetoric for many months was from the river to the sea. Mm-hmm. I don't like hearing that. I think it's a hateful thing to say. I would much rather them say that than what I've been hearing so far since.
So you've seen a definite escalation in both the...
This is a rehearsed interview. It's rehearsed. The questions were ahead of time. And fuck off my screen. You're lying, Hamas. Sorry, sister, I gotta let you go. Right. This is what's going on. It says pro-Palestinian protests spread more to Ivy League campus. All over the United States, students are against war and they are against genocide. Very simple. They don't hate Jews. It has nothing to do with Jews or anti-Semitism. They're just trying to put that in there.
NYPD moving in with riot gear, police breaking down encampments as a sea of protesters march through the city's streets. It comes as tensions flare at Columbia University, now entering its 7th consecutive day of pro-Palestinian protests. With the school announcing main campus classes will be hybrid until the end of the semester, stating safety is our highest priority. After the university's president's call to de-escalate the rancor, a massive NYPD presence was around the campus as a growing number of Jewish students report feeling unsafe.
It is complete anarchy.
Students like Andrew Stein, who says he was...
You see what they do? The Israeli students or the so-called provocators do is they'll go into a place where these people are sitting minding their own business and provoke them to get into an argument so they could put it on an iPhone and put it... They need content to prove there's an anti-Semitism. You cannot use anti-Semitism for everything, my friend. Fuck that. We're not going for that shit no more. That shit doesn't work no more. It has no potency. There is no fear in it. Fuck the word anti-Semitism, all right? Because there is no anti-Semitism right now going on in these campuses. The only anti-Semitism is those who claim there is anti-Semitism. Because by saying so, there are endangered Jewish Americans. They are given ideas to people who are on the fucking deep end of the extremists, wherever they may be hiding, whatever corner it is. They are giving them a green light to attack Jews. This is what it is. They are hoping for an incident. I'm afraid they might do a fucking false flag.
He was on campus late Saturday night for a pro-Israel counter-protest, but left terrified by an angry mob.
They started saying in Arabic, Hamas, Hamas, our beloved, please bomb Tel Aviv.
Yeah. So
Stein
what?
says this video shows him being followed off campus.
Me and my friend had water poured, physically poured in our face.
At the pro-Palestinian encampment in the heart of the university, heated confrontations.
Go back to Poland is not anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, and that was said.
The pro-Palestinian students we spoke to say they have no knowledge of any anti-Semitism on campus Saturday night.
Anyone who makes any threat to any Jewish student, we oppose you, we do not associate with you.
Patriots owner and Jewish alum Robert Kraft, a major donor, announcing he is pulling his support until corrective action is taken. That tension now spreading to other campuses nationwide. In California, students setting up encampments at Berkeley and police moving in at Cal Poly Humboldt. Protests at the University of Michigan, Harvard Yard closing this week. And at Yale University, 45 students were arrested Monday and later released after they refused to leave their encampment at the campus center.
Here we were, just exercising our freedom of speech.
Meanwhile, at Rutgers University on Monday, a 24-year-old man was charged with a federal hate crime for allegedly breaking into that university's Islamic Center during the Eid celebrations earlier in the month. Many are left wondering if this will continue to spread. Hold on.
All right, Aaron.
It's not a disease.
Aaron, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't
All
miss
right,
the Today
I'll
Show
go.
every weekday at 11 a.m.
Thank you. At least you
Eastern, 8
covered it.
Pacific on our streaming.
It seemed fair, right? It seemed fair, right? All right. The Jewish Telegraph Agency. I just want you to see this. This article is New York Jewish Week, right? Columbia University has suspended 2 pro-Palestinian student groups. Jewish Voice for Peace. This is a Jewish organization. This organization is anti-Semitic. These Jews hate themselves, okay? Jewish Voice for Peace and Students for Justice in Palestine, saying they violated university policies and expressed threatening rhetorics and intimidation. I don't know, man. The suspension runs through the end of the fall until they finish killing the people in Gaza. Of the fall semester, about 6 more weeks. All right. I just want to tell you that they are suspending pro-Palestinian protests, sweeps to U.S. college campuses, following mass arrests. This is the whole thing, my friend. Let me get back there. Okay, now we're going to go to our video. We're going to go to our video. What the hell is that? That's not me. Get out of there. All right. All right, we're going to go to our video that we want to watch. This is Piers Morgan against Professor, right? Yeah, it is.
The general view is...
What's so good about this that the professor dog walked Piers Morgan. Let's watch it. It's about 20 minutes or 30 minutes video. Then we're gonna say good night and goodbye. Guys, hang out with me, man. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to fucking stand up here and get naked for you guys so you could watch my channel? Should I? All right, let's see this. Go ahead, Piers. I like Piers Morgan because he gets fucking dog
the
walked.
West is that Iran's attack on Israel was an abject failure. Whether or not it was a genuine attempt to wound the Israeli state or just a billion-dollar fireworks display, it didn't work. 99% of the drones and missiles were shot down by Israel's allies and its Iron Dome. Israel looks tough again, Iran looks weak. And after months of rebukes from its allies over the Gaza war, Israel's powerful friends have again made their allegiance clear. So what did Iran have to gain? Well, first things first, the Iranian regime is loathed by its own people. Enemies mean survival. It had to be seen to respond to the Israeli attack on its consulate in Syria. And to those who glibly say Iran has the right to defend itself and America would respond with force, which rock have you been living under? Iran has been poking the hornet's nest through proxies for years. Hezbollah attacks Israel from Lebanon in the north. The Houthis in Yemen have attacked vessels in the Red Sea more than 60 times in the last 6 months alone. Hamas began its diabolical war in Gaza by invading Israel from Lebanon in the north. The Houthis in Yemen have attacked vessels in the Red Sea more than 60 times. Changing political winds impact the war on Gaza. Well, I agree with much of it, if not all of it. But what is the view from Tehran about what's happened here?
Yes, I think it's pretty fair to say I disagree with all of it. The view from Tehran is quite clear. You know quite well, I know quite well, your viewers know quite well that the Israeli regime is carrying out genocide. And this stems from an ethno-supremacist ideology. It stems from apartheid. And this is unacceptable. And the people who lived on that land, they have been expelled. The people in Gaza, they live in a concentration camp, now a death camp. And the West has brought about this situation. Whatever crimes that they've committed against Jews and Gypsies and Slavs, they have to pay for it themselves. They can't take it out on the Palestinian people. So the Iranians, along with almost everyone else in the world, except for some people in your part of the world, believe that the apartheid regime has to come to an end. And by coming to an end, it means that all people of that land have to be able to live as equal human beings. I know that sounds very crazy, but ethno-supremacism isn't a good thing.
But the position of the Iranian regime is that Israel shouldn't exist, right?
Well, the position of the British regime is that Israel as an apartheid state should continue to exist. The position of the American regime is that Israel is...
If you could, look, that wasn't the question I asked you, but is the position of Iran's regime...
I'm answering.
I'm answering.
Yeah, but what is the answer to that question?
I'm getting there. The position of the American regime is that apartheid should continue. Iran's position on South Africa had the same gap. There was the same gap back then when the British and the Americans supported apartheid in South Africa and racial supremacism in the South African region, Zimbabwe today, and so on. Back then, Iran was supporting the indigenous population. Back then, Iran supported the ANC. Back then, Iran supported the military wing of the ANC and Nelson Mandela.
But we're not talking about South Africa. I'm talking about what is Iran's regime's current position in relation to Israel?
The Iranians believe that Israel does not have moral legitimacy as an apartheid regime. And the only way that it can gain legitimacy is that if apartheid is cast aside, if ethno-supremacism is cast aside, if racial and religious discrimination in the sense that Muslims and Christians are lesser human beings and they don't have any right to the land that they've been on for hundreds of years, that should be set aside. People who have been expelled have the right of return. It's not very complicated. It's not, as you say, rocket science.
Well, it may not be complicated to you, but what looks complicated to us is that what Iran has been doing in the last few years, if not decades, has been supporting via proxy groups like the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas.
Israel has killed about 6 to 7 Iranian scientists inside Iran, assassinated. Nobody assassinates academia or scientists, only Israel, under the fear that they are physicists or they are nuclear scientists. They have attacked Iran and Syria. They have attacked the Iranian ships. The worst fucking virus in the Middle East is Israel. Let's go.
In Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, funding and helping to train them to commit acts of war against Israel, firing endless rockets, and as we saw on October the 7th, committing an act of heinous terrorism. So it's not quite as simple as you're trying to picture this, is it? Iran has had a vested interest in supporting terror against Israel for a very long time.
No, I think the regimes that have a vested interest in supporting terrorism are the ones who are giving the Israeli regime the weapons to carry out genocide. And the genocide began long before October the 7th. And the Gaza Strip was a concentration camp long before October the 7th. You know as well as I that October the 7th didn't occur in a vacuum. And the terrorism has been carried out regularly by the Israeli regime on the Palestinians of the Gaza Strip for decades. It regularly bombed them and killed them. And it's not just the Gaza Strip. I think roughly 400 Palestinians have been murdered in the West Bank over the past 6 months. These are regular occurrences, but it doesn't register in the West because, again, the Israelis they are European. It's a European colony. They have priorities over the brown people of the land. But it is a fact that Palestinian children, according to the statements made by senior Israeli officials, Palestinian women, according to members of the Knesset, they are lesser people. If you look at the South African complaint, they clearly point out the views of these people and the starvation siege and the intention to starve the people of Gaza, women and children. That is because they look at them as inferior people. This is not about two armies. This is about a subjugated people trying to stand up for their rights. If you were in Germany,
and how would you? Let me ask you, Professor. How would you categorize what happened on October the 7th? Was that a terrorist attack?
No, it was a retaliation of a people who were imprisoned and who were starved and who were regularly battered, and people who were imprisoned
so you think, just to be clear, you think that the slaughter of 1,200 people, the raping, the maiming, the incinerating, the mass murder that went on that day by a group whose own spokesman, the Hamas spokesman, said days after that, on television, on camera, that Hamas was wedded to committing the same act again and again and again, as often as it could, which actually is the purest personification of the genocide that you're talking about. You don't condemn that?
You're being dishonest. There is no evidence.
No, I'm not.
There's no evidence of rape, and I ask your viewers to
absolute
look
nonsense.
Yes, nonsense. It's absolute nonsense that there's systematic rape, and if you are being dishonest intentionally, you are helping the Israeli regime continue its genocide by justifying it through dishonesty. So that's up to you to decide. There's no evidence of systematic rape. And just like the beheadings,
there has been clear reported evidence of rape and sexual abuse against Israeli women. Clear, demonstrable evidence.
I refer you and your audience to the good work carried out by people at the Gray Zone, at the Electronic Intifada, based in the United States. Many of them are people of they're excellent reporters, and you should invite them on your show to talk about these allegations.
I've talked to top reporters who've covered this.
I'm
also interested, Professor, that you only want to deny that there was rape. You don't want to deny the incineration or the beheadings or the mass murder of Holocaust survivors, the kidnapping of several hundred people, including babies. Do you condemn any of that, or do you think all of that is justified?
That's fucking gay as fuck.
You're trying to play with words, and that's fine as long as you're not
trying to
you're playing because there is no evidence of beheadings. You're just taking the dishonest Israeli regime's account, which they have no evidence, and people have written articles
there
about
was
this.
demonstrable, proven evidence that people were beheaded. Provable evidence.
No evidence.
So more than
No
that,
evidence.
We know from Hamas's own video coverage of what they were doing
Show us
in
the
real
footage.
time that they proudly
Show us the
broadcast
footage.
to the world. They didn't try and hide this. I'm just curious why you, who is so incensed by what you see as Israeli genocide, why you would not be equally incensed by genocidal behavior from Hamas that day.
No, you're not being honest, and that's where did they broadcast this footage of beheadings, the Hamas, to the world? Can you put it right now where you have a
I didn't
crew
say
right
they
now?
broadcast the beheadings. There was evidence found of people who'd been beheaded. That was not broadcast. But
Can
what
you show
was
the footage?
broadcast
Hold on.
was
Can you show the footage?
was the
Did you know
was
that-
the one. I didn't say there was footage of the beheading. I said.
Hold on. Did you know that Israel refused the United Nations from investigating what happened on October 7th? They refused to let them interview the rape issue or give them proof of people being raped. There's nothing happened like that. It's all made up shit, man. It is a lie after lie after lie. Like I said, Jews are fucking bad liars, man. After November 7th, they got exposed, man. The problem is they over exaggerate. Oh, they cooked the babies and they cut 40 babies' heads. It's like, and they hanged them one guy said they hanged the babies on a clothesline. It's all lies, bad hesperity. And the problem is when they did that, they hurt their own case. Now, even if they say something, nobody's going to believe them anymore. That's what the distraction is going on right now in the United States universities. They want you not to know what's going on over there. They don't want you, the American people, to see for the liars and hypocrites that they are, for the criminals that they are, for the Nazi behavior they are. They don't want you to know that. But thank God the cat is out of the bag. Good. My neck is killing me.
There was evidence found that people had been beheaded, right? But I would also say to you that what was broadcast by Hamas of Hamas slaughtering people and kidnapping people, I'm proudly boasting about it. Something you seem to be smirking about.
I'm smirking at you. I'm smirking at you
Why?
because you are clearly being dishonest. If there were people, innocent people, anywhere, whether in Palestine or elsewhere, who were killed by a soldier, by anyone, that is, of course, unacceptable. But then these claims of systematic rape and these claims of these are dishonest claims. People have done hard work to prove that there is no evidence for these systematic rapes and beheadings, and these were used as propaganda to justify the beginning of this Holocaust in Gaza. And those who continue to make these
you talk about me being dishonest, Professor. You talk about me being dishonest, but what you've just said is an absolutely shocking example of dishonesty. Hamas didn't even try to hide what they did.
Where's the
They made
evidence?
no secret of their delight, their joy, their pride in what they were doing. Some of them rang family members back in Gaza to boast about what they'd just
No
done
evidence.
to old women, to children. And I'm just curious why you can't find yourself able to condemn this.
In the day and age, Piers, in the day and age when everyone has cameras and there are cameras all over the place, show us the evidence. Show us the evidence. Especially in Israel, which is a society which has cameras all over the place. But you don't have footage of any beheadings and you don't have any footage of any rape. I wonder why.
Thank you.
Well, there were bodies found who had been beheaded.
No, there
That is a fact.
So,
Okay,
show them these bodies that have been beheaded. Show them on your show. Show those pictures.
How many people do you think were killed that day?
I think roughly 1,100, between 1,100 and 1,200. Many of them were soldiers.
So you accept there was a mass slaughter. Does that constitute genocide to you? Is that an attempt at genocide?
No, it's like you saying that the French resistance, which was operating against the Nazis and they go and carry out an operation, and during that operation some children are sadly killed, so you say, oh, so the whole French resistance is illegitimate and the Nazis' occupation is legitimate. That's nonsense. If, as I said very clearly, wherever an innocent person is killed, that I condemn, everyone condemns, and I wish you would condemn, because a genocide is taking place, and you are putting forward claims without the justification to make them, without the evidence to make them. I would refer you again to those websites and those reporters and journalists who've proven that the claims were inaccurate, to say the least, and dishonest, most probably.
Let me turn to, well, we agree about this, so people can make their own minds up, but let me turn to the missile strikes that Iran launched against Israel, 300 of them. It was spectacularly unsuccessful. I mean, it caused barely any damage. Again, you're smirking, you can explain why, but it was a spectacular failure, wasn't it, by Iran? Just a load of showboating and throwing fireworks in the air with actually no result whatsoever, other than they hurt one little girl.
Of course, I'm smirking. It's funny the way in which you always frame things, where the other and the non-Westerner is incompetent and incapable, and your fantastic Israeli allies are on top of their game. No, in fact, it was a major defeat for the Israelis and for the Americans. And why? Because the Iranians, from the very beginning, well, let me tell you. First of all, the Israeli regime carried out an airstrike on an Iranian embassy. The whole world condemned it. Forget the West, forget the UK and the US. You are marginalized. You supported it because at the UN Security Council, your regime, the American regime, and the French regime, they prevented the condemnation of the bombing of the Iranian embassy. So the world rallied behind Iran. And Iran said, we're going to retaliate. But what did Iran do? Iran played it very smart. They played 10 days of mind games with the Israeli regime, and then they declared that they're going to carry out the attack. So the Israelis and the Americans and everyone mobilized everything they had, and the Iranians sent hundreds of dirt cheap drones, a few $1,000s each, to fly, and it took 3 hours for them to get there. And then your Israeli allies spent, according to their own estimates, $1.35 billion to down drones that didn't cost probably $2 million for Iran. The Iranians did not use any of their new technology. It was all old technology. So the Israelis gained nothing, but the Iranians gained a huge amount of information about the capabilities of the Americans and the Israelis. And I must say that that most of the things were done by the Americans, not the Israelis or the British or the French. And then the Iranians sent a series of old missiles that they had in stock for a long time, none of it with the latest technology. And then again, the Americans and the Israelis attacked them with very expensive missile defense systems and use all their capabilities, giving the Iranians huge amounts of information. Again, a couple of $1 million. No one is going to buy those old missiles. And then Iran fired a handful alongside these missiles, a handful of serious missiles that were targeted at two bases, the two most heavily defended military sites in the world, an air base in the south and an intelligence gathering base, I think, in the north. And both of them received direct hits. So the Israelis they showed their hand. They spent a lot of money at a time when these missiles there's a huge shortage of them because of Ukraine. And the Iranians gave no information about their capabilities. Even those missiles
I've got to say that's one of the more entertaining explanations for such an abject.
It's really good. Hold on.
Let me take you back to what Israel said they.
The whole idea is Piers Morgan, with all his faults, is he has to please his masters. You know what those masters are? They are the Zionists. He has to say the right things for his show to stay afloat. You understand? That's what it is. It's nothing more, nothing less. Huh? All right? So, this guy is running circles around Piers Morgan. Old Piers Morgan could say, well, We're not only going to agree on this. If you're not going to agree on that, good.
They committed the bombing in Damascus 4 was because they discovered that the building was diplomatic in name only and being used as an Iranian military and intelligence base, hence the presence of all these generals, two of whom were killed, along with all the others there. So if it was being used as a military base, and they were training Hezbollah, which is what they believed they were doing, then it was a legitimate target, wasn't it?
Well, of course, since you support the Israeli narrative and you are a friend of the people who are carrying out this Holocaust, this ongoing Holocaust, and you don't care about the people.
I don't support any narrative. I'm just asking you whether if it was being used as a military base, was it a legitimate target if they're training Hezbollah to attack Israel?
You have a rather one of the most extreme narratives, and I think you're doing a disservice to truth by
actually I don't at all. I've been very critical of Israel, but I don't believe whenever I interview people who can't find it in themselves to actually say what Hamas did on October the 7th, I always find it slightly incredulous then, whatever else they say, because we all saw what happened with our own eyes.
People are not intimidated by you. That's the problem. You can intimidate some of your own people, but you can't intimidate us.
I don't want to intimidate anybody. I want to get to the I want to find out. I'm just fascinated. Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Okay, Professor, I'm not trying to be timid.
That is a diplomatic.
No, you don't ask the questions.
Just like
I ask the questions.
No, I'm answering your question. That was a diplomatic building. You know quite well that the Israelis had no right to touch it. They committed a crime, and the Iranian retaliation was an act of self-defense. And your own foreign minister humiliated himself on Sky News, which is an outlet that is sympathetic to the regime, when he said, well, if one of our diplomatic buildings were struck, how would the response be? So don't be silly. The Israeli regime, they're always lying, just like the Al-Shifa hospital. They're full of underground tunnels. Where were the tunnels? And then at the beginning, when they struck the Al-Hili hospital and killed hundreds of people, they said, no, it was the resistance, and the Western intelligence agencies said the same thing. And then we saw them hit hospital after hospital after hospital. So you put your faith in the narrative of these child killers who bomb hospitals and destroy the very basis of humanity, the very basic needs for ordinary people in Gaza. Come on.
And yet here's the irony, Professor. Here's the irony, is that all the attention that was falling actually on Israel's war on Hamas in Gaza, and whether it was a massive overreach and whether too many civilians were being killed, and when we saw the aid workers killed, obviously enraged people as well. It was all heading the way that Iran would have liked, which is it was general global outrage that was fermenting about what was going on there. Now the narrative has changed, hasn't it? Because what we saw were countries like Jordan racing to help Israel defend itself against Iran's missiles, the ones that you've tried to dismiss, but were actual missiles. And how does that help Iran's narrative that Israel are the bad people in the region when you have major Arab countries like...
He's very smart, the professor. He's smirking on purpose just to get under his fucking head. He got on his head. That's why he defeated
Jordan and Saudi offering airspace and so on. How does that help your cause to try and isolate Israel? All you did was achieve the complete opposite, didn't you?
Absolutely not. First of all, the people of Jordan know that the Israeli regime considers the Palestinians to be Amalek. We're not dumb, Pierce, and they're not dumb. The government of Jordan does not represent the people. You know this, and I know that. But more importantly...
Well, the government of Iran doesn't represent the Iranian people, does it?
It represents the Iranian people more than your government represents the British people. But the Iranians...
Actually, I wouldn't say that at all.
I would say that. The Iranians, when they carried out the strike, and by the way, just as... Well, I'll say that at the end. When the Iranians carried out the strike, they punished the Israeli regime and they humiliated the Israeli regime. But nothing is going to distract world public opinion from the Holocaust in Gaza. Don't think that the Israelis can do that. No one can do that. The Holocaust continues as we speak today. When the president of Brazil and other world leaders say what the Israeli regime is doing today to the people of Gaza is just like what the Nazis were doing in Germany, no one is going to forget because the Iranians retaliated.
Okay, let me ask you this. It's been reported. Well, no, I want to ask you something. It's been reported today that Israel is preparing to do a retaliatory strike against Iran in some capacity. We don't know how yet. And it's been said, not least by you, that if war spreads, have no doubt all American bases in the Persian Gulf region will be destroyed, and those countries that host American bases will be guilty by association. All those gas and oil installations will be destroyed by drones and missiles. I mean, that's sort of strong rhetoric, but the reality is that if Israel does strike Iran, it has a far more sophisticated and powerful military capacity. And if America was to defend it against any further retaliation of the kind that you're describing, then Iran would get wiped away, wouldn't it? I mean, you can't possibly compete with the combined military firepower of countries like Israel and America. Why would you pretend otherwise?
That's your wishful thinking. The Israeli regime is vulnerable and weak, and it has shown itself to be incapable of taking a dot on the map. They haven't been able to take Gaza after 6 months of genocide. They haven't been able to take even northern Gaza after 6 months of genocide. They have to withdraw at least 100 to 200,000 people from northern Israel because they cannot stand up to Hezbollah. They cannot push Hezbollah back. They cannot defeat them. So you think the Israeli regime is going to defeat Iran? Why is it that the Americans are concerned about any Israeli attack? Because they know exactly what will happen. Next time round, Iran won't be firing those old drones to gather intelligence and to empty the Israeli and the American missiles. Next time, the Iranians will be sending thousands of missiles and drones that are top-notch, and the Israelis will be punished severely. And the reason why the Americans don't want this is because they know that the balance of power has shifted. Pierce, let me give you a word of advice. Your media outlets, regardless of whether Russia or Ukraine is good or bad, that is another issue. Your media outlets in the West have been misleading the people for 2 years now, saying Ukraine is winning, Ukraine is winning. Suddenly, everyone is saying Ukraine is falling apart. Dishonest narratives and reporting dishonestly to your own people ultimately hurt the people of England and Europe and the United States. And your endless wars based upon this nonsense and this misinformation lead to huge waves of refugees. And then the people of Europe feel overwhelmed by these refugees that you yourself brought upon yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would return the favour here by saying to you, I think you should wake up to the reality of what your regime is doing. Because it's pretty clear, I think, to anyone who has looked at the situation in its totality, that what Iran has been doing is a direct response to the normalization of relations with Israel, with a number of countries in the Middle East that annoys Iran intensely because they don't recognize Israel as a state. So what Iran has been doing is funding and fueling terror groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, to constantly attack Israel, because what they want to do, particularly with October the 7th, is to dismantle and destabilize any more normalization of Arab countries with Israel, particularly Saudi Arabia, who are on the verge of doing it, which is why I think the utterly self-defeating firing of all these missiles the other day actually had the complete opposite effect. Jordan raced to defend Israel, and Saudi offered airspace and also helped defend them as well. And when that happens, it isolates Iran, not Israel. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. Professor Ryan,
let me respond to that. Let me respond to that. Actually, it's the opposite. When the West continues to support the atrocities carried out by the Israelis, when the West openly supports an ethno-supremacist regime, and when the West supports genocide, the public across the region is turning not only against the Israeli regime, but against the West. A few families who are ruling over countries are not public opinion. And ultimately, by pursuing this, they are creating a rage that they cannot stop in future. And just one final point on a personal note. I experienced what the West does to the non-Western world. When your governments were supporting Saddam Hussein, when your governments were arming him in the 1980s, before you turned against him, your governments gave him chemical weapons. I survived two of those chemical weapons attacks. I survived both mustard gas, and I survived nerve agents that were provided by Western government to Saddam Hussein. And many people did not survive. The intentions of Western regimes are not benign. Your governments have done nothing but ruin and destruction for our part of the world and for much of the rest of the world. And now, because of the mess that you've created across the board, you're now ruining the lives of your own people.
Okay, well, just for the record, I was the editor of the Daily Mirror, which led the UK media campaign against the Iraq War.
I agree.
This was before that.
So I know what you're saying. I'm just saying that I did that, and so your assessment of what I think about what has happened.
I know what you were doing.
Here
I was at the anti-war protests in London at that time, actually. So I know what you were doing.
Right, you were probably carrying the Daily Mirror banner because I know it's a complicated situation. Professor Morandi, I appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much.
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I think Professor Morandi just walked all over that narrative that our friend what's his name, Piers Morgan does every day. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the show. Don't forget, every Sunday night we have a crime show where we listen to people who commit crime and see how the police dismantle their defense of themselves during the police interviews. And please, that's every Sunday at 6 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you. If you're listening, and please can you support the channel with a like and share and a comment once in a while. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to the ether here every day. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's disheartening to see that there is no response, there is no community being built after 4 years, after 1,000 videos that I have done. It seems like, I mean, the issue is not the money, because YouTube is fucking killing in the channel. Our views have went down to 400 to 300, from 8,000 to 3,000 to 2,000. And once the war started in Gaza, we started talking about Gaza and the plight of the Palestinians. YouTube and other platforms have killed our algorithm. People don't see us. They don't see our channels. Today I used the wrong title. Well, sometimes I'm going to use like fake titles just to get my point through without getting in trouble. They actually took a video out because I said Iran attacks Israel. Everybody did it. Everybody covered it. And they took my video and told me, oh, this is not it's not a copyright strike or anything. You're not affected, but we have to take this video. I don't know why. Anyway, guys, man, God bless you all. Thank you very much. Grad control to measure time. Please take your protein pill and put your t-shirt on. Grad control to measure time. Da 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 da. Gotta go. Gotta go. Gotta go. Gotta go. I love you all, man. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, whatever who you are, wherever you are in the world. God bless you all. And until we meet next time, this is Omar from the Third Rail. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.